Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Good shot, kid. I think you got him.
Hello there and welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Today we'll continue on Let's Play. This is episode 76. In today's episode we are taking our second visit to the import-export business as we take a look at list number 2 of cars that need exporting. It's time for another good payday as this is the best paying side mission in the entire game. Lots of money to be had here by exporting vehicles. Now with the previous time that we've done this, I will be showing the best spawn point to get these vehicles from. The game will create a spawn point for these vehicles when they're required for export, which is quite handy. However, sometimes there is a permanent spawn point already in the game, which is better to use, more convenient, closer to the ship. So whatever is the most convenient is the one that I will be using. The first car we need to get today is the Blitzer Compact, which is available at the most easterly radar tower in the San Fierro airport. Simply enter through the gates, drive all the way down here, and then you'll see the Blitzer parked next to this radar satellite. The Blitzer takes its appearance from a 1980s Honda CRX, one of the best compact cars in the game actually, a good balance of performance and nimbility. Of course, as you can see, quite a lot of these cars will have an alarm on them, sometimes they will be locked as well, so that's worth bearing in mind. Another thing to bear in mind is I would use the ramp on the side of the boat in order to save time. The way the game tells you to do this is use the crane to position the cars onto the boat. However, that ramp does save a lot of time in all but one vehicle's case. So one vehicle is a little bit too big to be used or to go up the ramp. So in that time you will need to use the crane. Anyways, once you've exported the Blitzer, that's $35,000 in your pocket, which is a pretty decent price for a compact car. Next up, we're going to be getting the most expensive car on our list, which is the Cheetah, which is available in Prickle Pine, just down the road from the safe house you can buy outside the front of this driveway. The Cheetah is based off of a Ferrari Testarossa, and once again, this one does have a high probability of being locked, so do watch for that. But yeah, the most expensive car on our list, of course, it's also the best car on our list statistically. It's a very, very quick car, very nice car. Not quite as good as the Infernus on list number 1. And personally, I do prefer the Infernus's design, but the Cheetah is certainly a car that you shouldn't pass up on, and unlike in Vice City, you can't get this from police officers either, so that's a little bit of a shame. No more Miami Vice cops in this game. Regardless though, it does get a good price of $105,000, which is an awful lot. In fact, I think that's more than you can earn from almost any other side mission in the entire game. The next car we're getting is the Comet, which is available here at the country club in the car park. I forgot the name of this country club, but it is available there. This car takes its design from a 1980s Porsche 911 Targa, and it's actually a pretty decent car, all things considered. Decent enough statistics. It's not quite enough to match some of the top supercars in the game, but it's certainly not far off, and it's definitely at the higher tier of sports cars in this game. Regardless of that, however, the pricing of this vehicle is not particularly indicative of its performance, as it's only worth $35,000, so you can get this or a Blitzer, and as much as I like the Blitzer Compact, the Comet is definitely the better of those two vehicles, but either way, $35,000 is what we'll take. Next vehicle is the FCR 900, which is parked at the Rosca Escalante pizza stack. Alternatively, you can get this from the bike school, provided you have all silvers at bike school, but I couldn't get it to spawn, so I got bored and ended up putting me down here. So if you want to be more persistent, the bike school is technically closer to the actual ship itself, but this place is a better spawn point as it will always spawn there. The FCR 900 is based off, I believe it is a Honda CBR motorcycle. I'm not too in tune with my motorbike knowledge, but either way, that's what it looks like to me. You can get it with the fairing or without the fairing, and that does change the appearance of the vehicle, but either way, whether it has a fairing or not, it's still going to be the cheapest vehicle on our list, because of course it is a motorbike for $10,000, so that's all you can get from here, and I almost died from jumping off the ship there. Next up, we are going to be getting a countryside favourite, the Rancher, which is based off of a Chevrolet Suburban 2-door SUV. It is available at the Blueberry Acres farm to the southwest. Of course, this can spawn in the Badlands, and in fact, your best bet to get this would be to sort of drive south out of San Fierro towards Angel Pine, and you'll see tons of these things driving around, but again, I'm showing the best permanent spawn point And in terms of permanent spawn points, it's either this. There's a couple supposedly in Las Venturas, but I couldn't actually find the vehicle there, so I went for the Blueberry Acres Farm one instead, which is actually fairly close to the ship considering the docks are pretty south in San Fierro. This is actually, believe it or not, the second most expensive car on the list, $40,000 for exporting the Rancher, which isn't bad for one of the more common vehicles in the game. Yeah, a surprising amount of money for this one, it does have to be said. The next vehicle on our list is the GTA favourite, the Saber, which is available in the car park opposite Zero's RC shop. This vehicle is based on an Oldsmobile 442 muscle car from way back in the day, and yeah, it's one of the more common cars in San Fierro. This is actually a gang car driven by the San Fierro Reefer, which does mean pretty much in Dorothy you'll find these things everywhere. However, again, permanent spawn point, and that is the permanent spawn point for it. Fortunately, it's not too far out of Zero's RC shop. Be aware when you try and export this vehicle in the rain that it can get caught up on the ramp because it is a muscle car, lots of power, not too much in the way of traction. But it's not a bad vehicle, and as long as it isn't green, CJ is quite happy to drive it, because of course the green Saber is the one that killed his mums. $19,000 for the Saber, not too much money, but then again it is a relatively common car. Next up, we're going to be going for the Slam Van, which is parked behind a sex shop here in El Corona. This is one of the hardest vehicles to find on the list. If it didn't have this spawn point, then you'd be well and truly boned, because there's no other place this vehicle really shows up, which is a shame, because the Slam Van is one of the coolest vehicles in the game, being based off of a custom pickup truck. It's also available as a lowrider with hydraulics. You can take this thing to Loco Low and customize it with all the coolest lowrider customizations, which I would recommend. However, this one has to be destined for export. The one nice thing when you export, of course, is you can import the vehicles back, so if you ever feel the need to get another Slam Van in your life, you can do so. And it's also a relatively cheap vehicle because it doesn't have that much value at just $19,000, same as the Saber, although then again the Slam Van is more looks over actual substance. The next vehicle on our list is the Stafford, which can be found outside of the Vankhoff Hotel. This vehicle is based off of a 1970s Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph, and it can be found outside of one of CJ's safe houses, which is quite lucky. They're pretty easy cars to find in terms of the list, although trying to find this one spawning in traffic is a little bit harder. It only really appears in the Rodeo District in Los Santos. It is one of the biggest cars, but it will definitely fit up the ramp, and despite its sort of luxurious appearance, of course being based off a Rolls-Royce, which is a pretty big-time vehicle, you'll be surprised to find out it isn't actually worth all that much by the game's reckoning at just $35,000. Once again, same as a Blitzer Compact and a Comet. I mean, between those two, this is probably the slowest and weakest car of those, but still, $35,000 for that is it's a bit of a steal, really. Although I guess that would perform better in impacts and drive-bys. The next vehicle we're getting is the Stallion, which is based off of an amalgamation of a bunch of 60s muscle cars, I guess sort of more Ford Mustang style roof down convertible. This is also available with a hardtop and is also one of the other cars driven by the San Fierro Reefer. So you can find these things driving around in Dorothy, but the best place to get it in terms of a permanent spawn point is outside the Super Save supermarket. Although you might have to drive around the block a few times because it doesn't always appear, but that is its sort of scripted position, if you will. But again, if it doesn't appear there, then it's not really the end of the world. You can find this one pretty easily. And again, another fan favourite, as this car's been in the game since GTA 3. And in fact, it shows up on quite a lot of marketing and stuff like that. $19,000 though for an iconic vehicle, so it's very cheap as well. And that also means it's pretty disposable. And the last vehicle on our list is the Tanker Truck, which is available at a roadside diner in Tierra Robada. You will have to use the crane on this one because it's quite a big vehicle, and of course this isn't going to be driving up the ramp. Believe me though, I did try, but it is a little bit too wide in order to fit up there. So, our first time using the crane, it's not particularly difficult, and again, if you've got to this point and you're following on with this Let's Play 1-to-1, then you've obviously used the crane during the quarry mission, so you should know how this goes. You can move the crane around on its track. Unlike the crane in the quarry, this one doesn't rise up, but again, just move it backwards and forwards. and that can position it correctly, and then you just need to get it inside of the red marker. The reason we don't use the crane is because it's not very time effective, and also it is very possible to damage the vehicle using the crane. But once you've done that, it is worth $35,000, and you get a extra $100,000 bonus for delivering all the cars. We're now accessible to another import list, which we will be covering in a later video, and for 5 cars imported during list 2, you get the Bandito as an importable vehicle, and then for the full list, you get the Turismo supercar, which is one of the best supercars in the game. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Next time I'm going to be taking a look at street races in Las Venturas, so join us for that. Until then, farewell.
Speeding all around. The naked 47 got the power and it's bound to move any mother that gets in my way. Just another power machine on the freeway. Riding with me, there's my MC homeboy. Knowing the rules ain't part of his program. Finding the right way around this map might be pretty hard, cause he's fucked on crack. Gee,